Well, good evening. My name is Dr. Fortson. I'm academic dean here at Rockford Lutheran. Glad to see everyone here and take advantage of an opportunity to really, what some people think is look way down the road, something that's far, far away. And yet, as I was talking with the 6th grade students today, there's a lot of things happening right now that are going to have a big impact for us in the near future, as well as the further path down the road. So it's good we start talking about those sorts of things right now and make some good preparations for what a strong foundation will look like today that we can build on for our future, for tomorrow. So let's begin. Good word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for being here tonight, the opportunity we have to look down that path to the future. Lord, you hold the future and you know what it involves, but we only see dimly. Lord, bless us with an opportunity to prepare and to take advantage of the gifts that you've given these young people, the passions and abilities that they have. Bless us as we seek to nurture those abilities and grow those passions and open up doors of opportunity to these young people so that they can grow to be everything you created them to be. Bless us in our role as parents and as a school to work together to accomplish great things in the lives of these young people. In your name, amen. Okay, so we've got a lot of different things we're going to be talking about today, and I'd like to talk about this whole topic of college planning for junior high in kind of starting from a real big picture scenario, because there's a lot of what goes into the idea of college planning that goes beyond just academics. And really we're looking at more than just college planning for these young people. I mean, we're really looking at what are some things right now that we should be thinking about, that we should be doing, that we should be preparing, that's going to be a part of their entire life and their entire future, not necessarily just college. That in itself is intended to be preparation for beyond. So let's take a look at that picture in a little bit broader sense. So that's what I mean there when we talk about what's the big picture. We're going to look at challenges involved and what we have to work with and what our roles are, and we'll get into some specifics of what college will look like. I'll certainly be willing to answer some questions about some specific things you might be thinking about in terms of college and financing and search and all that sort of thing. Keep in mind that we have a program like this for the junior high, which is kind of a combined 6th, 7th, and 8th program. From here, just so you know what happens in the future, we have a separate program then for a freshman college planning night, a sophomore college planning night, each with very different programs and very different content. Then at the junior year, we have one event relative specifically to college testing, as well as then junior college planning. And then at the senior year, we have the final college planning, which is more college selection, kind of a final decision, that sort of process. And we have a separate event just for financial aid. So that's kind of the scope for down the road, so you get a little bit of a picture of it. But that's why at this point, we're kind of looking at it in a very broad sense, because there's a lot of factors that are going to come into play in these next 5, 6, 7 years, depending upon the age of your students and so on, that are all a part of college planning and really, like I said, life planning down the road. So this is kind of an interesting quote that ran across some time back, and I thought is particularly appropriate as we think about what we're gathering here for tonight. I'm sure you as students, no one has ever said anything to you about disrespecting elders or acting rudely at the table or tyrannizing teachers or anything like that, right? So just to give you an idea of some things don't change so much, okay? However, there's a lot about our world that has changed, and some of the challenges that our students face in adolescence are the same as what they were 2,500 years ago, and some of them are very, very different. And those challenges come to you as parents in new and unique ways as well. But these are some of the things that we want to be thinking about as we're looking at the next 5, 6 years of our student experience, recognizing that it's hard to believe, but that's all the time we have left. If we're talking about a 7th or 8th grader at this point in 6 years, they're going to be ready to pack and move on. And it seems like there's a lot of life that needs to happen yet in the meantime, and that's totally true. And as you take a look at some of these challenges that they face, we realize that there's some important lessons for us to teach as we're a part of this kind of a growing process. And again, some of those are very different. This issue of enough sleep is is impacting our kids now in ways it never has before. You got so many electronic gadgets that you can, take to bed with you at night, and that all really is a little problematic in itself. And the whole issue of, computers, tablets, and cell phones crowding out other things in our life, in particular communication and human relationships. And so, those are things that you are facing as parents that are all quite different. And, the whole idea of adolescence lasting a pretty long time, and for the most part, your kids have already started into this part of the process, and it's not really going to be done when you go off to college. There's still a fair amount of growing that takes place at that stage as well, and your role continues to change in that process. But the other thing that's difficult is the fact that in spite of these new challenges and different things that we face in this day and age, our tendency is to parent like we were parented. And that's not always most helpful, because we're parenting kids in preparation for a much different world than we experienced at that stage, or that our parents experienced, and so on. Okay, so thinking again in a bigger term, what is it we want to accomplish? And we're talking about college planning, again, future planning for your child. We're talking about a lot more than academics. There are a lot more of things that we want to kind of build into their lives and have them experience in this time that we have left, if we're really going to take seriously the idea of preparing them for whatever it is that they're going to encounter in their future. And a lot of it has to do with just good character values that are important and that are going to be integral to their success as they move from junior high to senior high, and then move from senior high to out of the home, and that sort of thing. And so as we look at that, you kind of get the idea that we don't have a whole lot of time to cover a lot of topics and a lot of needs there. So I'm just putting these up there for you to think about in terms of what kind of decisions do we need to be considering, and what sort of things do we need to look at as we really look at what these next years are going to look like. And one of the reasons why I throw this up here, and keep in mind the PowerPoint is going to be available to you on our school website, so you don't have to write any notes and all that sort of thing. We'll have a recording of it posted as well, so that you can pick up on what you want to later. But one of the reasons why I put some of this up here is the fact that there's a lot to think about that's going to be happening in these next 5, 6, 7 years. And one of the things that can be very difficult for us, especially as we feel like, we've been at this a long time already. Our kids are already teenagers. It seems like, this is a long process, and it is. And there's a tendency for us to reach this point and to be less deliberate. Okay, there were stages of life when our kids were a lot younger that we knew there were some very deliberate things that just needed to be taught. They had to be taught not to run out into the street, and not to play with the stove, and to poke things in the electrical outlet, and all those sorts of things we were really very deliberate and significantly attending to. And it's easy for us to reach a point where we think, okay, they're bigger now, they can kind of figure some of this stuff out on their own, so let's just watch it happen. Well, that can be a little dangerous in our world today in a lot of different ways. But one of the things that I encourage you to just consider is the fact that all of these things that we're talking about in terms of what needs to happen and what needs to be built into the lives of our kids is only going to happen if we're really deliberate about it. It's easy in our busy world for us to get into a routine where we get up in the morning and everybody gets ready and kind of scrambles off to school and to work, and we come home at all various times, and people just kind of scramble for something to eat and get homework done and get other things done, and all of a sudden it's time to just kind of crash for a while in front of the TV or whatever, and then everybody goes to bed, and then we get up the next day and do it again, and we think about, well, when did some of that stuff there that we really need to talk about, when did that happen? Did it happen? Did we really cover that? Did we really take advantage of that teachable moment that happened in our kids' lives today when they came home and told us something about what happened in their school life today? And, oh yeah, this is a great opportunity for us to have a talk about honesty. Or it's a great opportunity for us to have a talk about what appropriate communication is like between us and another classmate, or between than a teacher or something like that. You know, are there those teachable moments that we sometimes miss in the clutter and the busyness of the day? And so one of the reasons why I want to put this up here is for us to continue to recognize the need to be just deliberate about setting aside time to have those talks, to get into those sorts of topics, and remember that we really are taking opportunity to develop all sorts of skills and abilities and character qualities in the lives of our students. There's a lot more that needs to happen in these next 5, 6, 7 years than just learning algebra and physics and how to write a term paper. There's a lot more to that, and we need to work together on all of that, because some of it absolutely is going to be happening here during the course of the day, but there's a lot of it that still needs to happen at home too. One of the things that becomes a challenge at this level again is the fact that you get this idea that, you know, your kids don't really want you so involved in school anymore. You know, it wasn't that long ago when you were walking them into the building and, you know, you connected with the teacher on a regular basis and that sort of thing. And now the idea of you getting out of the car when you drop them off, I mean, that's not happening, okay? You know, that's just how part of that world's different. Now, does that mean that they need you less in any sort of a sense? No, absolutely not at all. And one of the things that people can sometimes get caught up in is the idea that, okay, well, they want a little bit more distance, they want a little more freedom, that sort of thing, so we'll give them that, we'll give them some extra room and that sort of thing, and have a tendency to maybe step back a little bit too far and think that they're much more secure and much more confident than they really are. Because it's cool to play that macho, secure, confident, mature, young, adolescent, teenager, etc. But in most cases, you'll look a little bit beneath that veneer, and they're still a little very insecure, very confused, as you see from some of the stuff that's been up here, very stressed out young person that still needs to know where to go when they're challenged with something that they don't understand. When they're challenged with something that's just kind of hit them in the face for the first time and they're just totally caught by surprise. And so, yeah, there's going to be a difference. You're not going to walk into school with them anymore. However, you know, what's also difficult is, where is everybody at night when there's kind of a need to come home and maybe debrief the day a little bit? And I realize the busy schedules are like, okay, totally get that. Had 4 kids and went through here and got involved in all the athletics and music and drama and all that sort of thing, and I totally get what that's like. But somewhere we need to be deliberate again about finding a place where we're going to connect on a regular basis, because believe it or not, even as teenagers, even as high school students, that connection that they have with you as parents and that opportunity to regularly connect and communicate with you on a regular basis is going to be huge. And it's even though they might think that it's not going to go away, or they think that they would like to see that go away because they're too cool to hang around talking about that anymore. You know, that's really not the case. And it's going to, you know, involve you being deliberate and taking some initiative to make sure that those connections continue. It's kind of funny. My youngest is, let's see, he's going to be 24 this year or something like that. We're going to talk a bit about brain development, but there's a lot that happens yet between like 18 and 25 that's really interesting to watch, because, you know, you can think about what your kids were like 6 or 8 or 10 years ago and the kind of communication relationship that they had with you, and then we hit this stage where we're at now, and you kids, you know, understand that it's normal for you to want to begin to be a little more independent, and that's okay, because you've got all this kind of stuff to work through and to figure out and so on. Well, one of the things to remember is you don't have to do that alone. Okay? Your parents are there to be a part of the process of working through that with you. Even though you want to be a little more disconnected and detached and on your own with friends and that sort of thing, and that's okay, within bounds. And your parents have a right and a responsibility to set those bounds. And that's why there are such things as curfews, and there are such things as get your homework done before, you know, anything else happens tonight, and all those sorts of things. That's an important role the parents still have to play in those sorts of circumstances. What's interesting, though, is as you get to my age, where the kids have gotten older now, they start calling me, and they start connecting back with me now when they have questions about things. So I'm thinking, wow, this wasn't happening when they were 17. It's kind of interesting that, yeah, but when they're 23, 25, you know, their perspective begins to change a little bit again, and so that, you know, things kind of turn around and we come back full circle. But that happens the best when we're all deliberate about trying to maintain that process all through on a continual basis. Yeah, the process looks different when they're 17 than it does when they're 23. I get that. But you know, one of the things that and everybody does something different, everybody finds different things to work for them and their family. One of the things that really worked for us was in those moments when there was just a ton of stuff going on, my wife and I were really deliberate about trying to find some time at some point, it wasn't very often, but periodically, where we could be one-on-one with one of our kids. We had 4 kids, and they were all about 2 years apart, so there was a lot of stuff going on all at one time. But, you know, there were a lot of days when, okay, I've got a little bit of time, this has got a little bit of time. Hey, why don't we go down to DQ and let's get a blizzard. And so, you know, we get down to DQ and we just spend an hour and a half just talking about stuff that's going on in life. And yeah, they're kind of, okay, you know, I mean, they don't mind the ice cream part. So that helps. But the point is, at some juncture, you know, then it starts to become, hey, Dad, you busy this afternoon? How about, you know, you want to, you know, maybe get down to Dairy Queen, get some ice cream? And I knew that there was something that needed to be talked about at that point. That was kind of like the signal, you know? And so, yeah, usually at that point, I had 3 boys, so I usually had to deal with girls and all those sorts of things. But sometimes it had to do with college and career and those, you know, should I take this job or shouldn't I? All that sort of thing. But that happens because you're deliberate at maintaining those kinds of experiences all through the process. So that's why I kind of throw this stuff up here and say, you know, don't back away too much as parents. Give them some space, but stay connected, maintain the boundaries that you need to, because there's security that comes from that. The worst thing for adolescents is not having a sense of security and safety that needs to be provided by parents at home and that sort of thing. But there's certainly some tough challenges for us to work through, and we need to do that together. And recognize the opportunity as parents to have to team with us on that. You know, as a school, we want to be here to provide some other additional information for you as to what's going on in your kid's life and that sort of thing. So if there needs to be communication one-on-one on your part, you know, that's one of the things that I'm here for, or, you know, our Mr. Valdez, our counselor, is here for, or Dr. Feeney and so on is here for. So take advantage of the opportunity to do that, because, you know, we see our role as partnering with you in this process. And so you see, you know, a lot of key roles that you have there, but the most important is just to never let them forget that you're doing what you're doing, no matter what it is, because you love them. Okay? And kids, that's your message here too. Yeah, it's going to seem like Mom and Dad's giving me all these rules, and they're coming down on me for all this kind of stuff, and they're always talking about doing this and that and the other. They're not doing that because it's fun. Okay, I can tell you from a parent standpoint, yeah, doing that kind of stuff is not fun, but you do it as a parent because you feel, you know you have to do it, because that's one of the ways that you show that you love. Okay, so one of the things that's kind of interesting to work with, we talked a bit about the whole brain research thing, is you know, that our developmental process is really interesting, and there's some important components that go into this, and this is why I'm talking kind of a big picture here, because all of the stuff that happens in terms of growth and development happens as a result of the different experiences that we face in life. Okay, so here we get an idea of what things are like as we come into the world, and what goes on from there. And, you know, this is key. We spend the rest of our lives wiring those neurons together. And it's experience that provides, you know, some important part of that wiring. Okay? So the experiences that you offer your students and the role that you play in supporting them through those experiences is really key. And so, yeah, opening up opportunities and opening up doors of things to do as a family and one-on-one and so on are helpful. We'll recognize that, you know, as a parent, you want kids to experience certain things. One of the things that there's an interesting amount of research out about right now is the kind of developmental handicap that results in kids being protected from too much. Okay? Now, there's boundaries for that. Obviously, we are going to protect our kids from running out into the street. But, you know, there's maybe some other things that we need to let them fall down and scrape the knee a bit, and then let them pick themselves back up. and get back in the game. And so, some things like that are part of those experiences we need to be thinking about. And so providing those experiences for them to wire their brains together in unique and different ways is going to be key. One of the things that we as a school really recognize is that God made all of us differently. Okay, we all came with different hardware. Our brains are all unique, and we have different gifts and passions and abilities and that sort of thing. What we do with them in terms of what we experience during this time of life is really key and is really critical. And one of the things that's tough is that we're expecting kids to make some pretty mature decisions with a brain that's not going to mature until it's about 25. Okay? It's funny, 40 years ago, Hertz knew they had no business renting a car to a 21-year-old male. They just knew that was not a good idea. They didn't know the neurology behind it, but they just knew from experience if they rented a car to somebody like that, it was probably not going to come back in real good shape. And so they just didn't do it, or they charged a ton extra for it. Okay? Well, why is that? Well, in the last 15 years, we found out that the prefrontal cortex, that part of your brain that makes logical, rational decisions, is not mature until you're 25. Okay, that's about the time they started renting cars to people again, because it seemed like the brain was together enough that the car came back in one piece. Okay, now we understand that. All right, but take a look at the things that sometimes we're expecting our kids to act on and make decisions about, especially facing the challenges that they do now with the technology that they have that enables to open up the whole world to their desktop. There's decisions there that their brain's not ready to make, literally not developmentally ready to make. So your role in that process is huge in helping them make those decisions and be prepared for the ramifications of those decisions too. Okay. That all fits together with really what we stand for as a school, because what we're here for is to recognize the fact that they are a unique child of God, made in a unique way, and gifted in unique ways, and given a different and unique purpose. And we're here in whatever we do to develop that person to be the very best they can be, to emphasize the excellence that should be demonstrated in every class and in every activity, every homework assignment, every expectation. Because God's given us those gifts. We want to make the best use of them that we can. And we're looking at ways in which we can use those gifts then to serve others. What are we going to do with those gifts as we move out from here and experience the rest of the world? How are we going to interact with other people in a way that demonstrates the kind of harmony that's going to enable us to interact and accomplish things successfully together? Okay, those are the things that are really key to us as a school, and I think you can see how that plays out in terms of developing your children into fully developed individuals ready to tackle whatever it is that they're going to face as they move down the road. So this is where the intentional partnership exists here for us to work together with you in that. So there's a lot of responsibilities that we all have in terms of creating a good environment for that kind of stuff to take place, and that includes some expectations and some limitations that you have on them as young people. But none more important than this idea here of you being a very deliberate, involved, integral part of that environment with your young person. And think about what your experiences were like as you were involved in parenting. Your kids, and if you talk to them about that, you'll find they're probably pretty interested in what life was like for you when you were their age. And sometimes we have a tendency not to talk about that much, maybe for good reason, but there's a lot they can learn from our mistakes. So take time to talk about some of these sorts of things with them, because there's value in that connection that you can make with them because of those experiences. Okay. That's kind of the big picture of what we want to be doing in terms of engaging our kids in their life. Let's get into some more of the specific academic components now that are oriented more directly to expectations here at school and classes and getting ready for college and that sort of thing. One of the things I like to talk about a lot, and this still connects with what we were just talking about, is the fact that colleges are looking for graduates. Now, a lot of people assume that, okay, that means you're looking for high school graduates. No. Yes and no. Colleges, remember, are looking for college graduates. In other words, they don't want to bring somebody into their school that's not going to make it. It's of no benefit to them to bring in 8,000 freshmen to turn into 3,000 seniors. Okay? Their business office is going to go crazy with that. So their purpose is to find students that are going to come into their institution and have what it takes to fulfill the entire program, to be successful and walk out of there as successful individuals 4 years later. Because how do they market their school? In their product. And if their product doesn't make it to the finish line, that doesn't look good. So what is it that we need to do to build into our kids' ability to not get into college, but to finish college? Okay? So that's what drives a lot of what's really specific to what we do in our program here. And so that's why we offer college level classes here, because we want kids to be in a college level experience as much as possible while they've still got a very familiar and supportive team around them to help pick up the pieces that maybe kind of shake off a little bump here and there and that sort of thing. But the purpose is to really grow them as far as we can and have them experience as much as we can in what that college experience is going to be like, so that when they get there, there's no real surprises. And obviously a lot of that has to do with what's involved in our academic program, but it has to do with just the ability to live on their own and to be successful in a college kind of environment, to make the kind of good decisions that need to be made when they're on their own and you're not there to check up on them. You know, all those things are part of that whole process. We're obviously academically capable students. Colleges are looking for students that have got the ability to handle what's going on in the classroom so that they can be successful in their classrooms as well. And they're going to base those decisions on what they see from their experience here in high school. That's why things like GPA and test scores and that sort of thing become important, because that's how they can look at that and say, this student's probably going to make it here okay, and so on. Well-rounded students. You know, they're not looking for kids that spend all day in the classroom and the library and the dining hall and back in the dorm room. Okay? They're looking for kids that are going to get engaged in their campus life. All right? Because the tendency is for kids, if they do go off to college and they don't really connect with anything on the books, they're probably not going to finish. They're looking specifically for kids who are really going to get involved in the campus experience. They're going to really get involved in the culture of the university. They're really going to get involved in the activities of the school. And so how do they determine that person? What does that person look like when they're still in high school? Well, they're a person that did that when they were in high school. One of the reasons why we offer the activity program that we do, the fine arts program that we do, the extracurriculars that we do, is the fact that that gives our kids the opportunity to experience that aspect of an academic life. So they get involved in music, they get involved in sports, they get involved in drama and so on, because, and I've heard it from a lot of alums that come back and talk to us, you know, I got to school and things weren't going all that well, and then, you know what, I found a couple of girls down the hall that you know, they were in cross country in high school too, and so was I. And so, you know, now we started a running group, and now we got half a dozen other kids, and we all go out at 7 in the morning and go run a few miles and blah, blah, blah. Or, you know what, we had a whole bunch of us on our dorm floor that all played volleyball in high school, or we all played football or basketball or whatever in high school, and so now we got an intramural team and we're having a great time. That becomes their place to connect, or the band becomes the place to connect, or whatever. And it's interesting, because a lot of people talk about, how can you go to a small school like Rockford Lutheran and then be successful at a place like U of I, where you've got like 50,000 kids? Well, you're not going to interact with 50,000 kids. Okay? Nobody does that. So somehow in a huge institution like that, you're going to find a place that's your niche, where you're going to fit in. What's that niche going to be? It's going to be something that you've experienced, that you have in common with other people that are there. And so it's going to be something like a sport that you now do intramural with other people you're going with. Or it's going to be a musical experience, or it's going to be a drama club, or it's going to be fill in the blank. But I think as a small school, because we have such a huge percentage of our kids that are involved in those sorts of programs here, that's equipping them to be able to go out and do that when they get to the college. Okay, so you as students need to be thinking about, what do I want to get involved with, or what do I want to stay involved with as I go through junior high and high school, Because those are the things that are going to be a part of your experience when you get to college too. What are those going to be, and how is that going to fit in? You know, you don't know how it's going to look down the road, but experience a lot of different things so that you can find what you really like, so that you can find what you're really good at, so that you can find that place that you just kind of fit in. That's where you're going to connect when you get to college in many cases as well. And so at that point, it doesn't make any difference how big college is, because you're going to find a place to connect. Socially concerned students, as we're taking a look at developing all aspects of our young people, the idea of, you know, what can I do to make a difference in the life of other people in the world is a greater interest of collegiate institutions as well. They're looking for kids that have some sense of social responsibility and want to make a difference in the world. To some degree for selfish motives, because again, how does that make their school look good? Well, if they've got kids that graduate their school and go out and do some amazing things for the betterment of mankind, that's something that they as a university could really hang their hat on and say, wow, look what this kid did after they left our school. So they're looking to bring those sorts of kids in that have that kind of experience, that are more likely to be involved in that sort of thing at the college level. So, you know, that's why we come with things like service hours and service projects and those sorts of things to give kids experience to find that place where they can get engaged in that sort of thing as well. I like to talk about things like grade point average, and those of you that 6th grade, you know, we've been talking about that, as I've met with you guys, and figuring out how that works, and the grading scale is important, the honors classes, the regular classes. Notice I'm going to be encouraging, we're going to be talking about honors classes and different course options that are available, because we're right in the middle of that process right in the next couple of weeks of picking our classes for next year. And so that's going to be part of what we're talking about tonight. But I want to make sure everybody sees how that whole system works and how the GPA works in honors classes versus regular and so on. Are you familiar with that? Questions about that before we go on? Okay. One of the big things that's going to be huge for colleges is knowing what classes did you take. And, you know, one of the other things that's always in people's mind too is, you know, college testing and that sort of thing. And ACT will tell you right off the bat, you want to improve your ACT score? 2 things. Take hard classes, do your homework. No big secrets. Take hard classes, do your homework. That's the number 1 and number 2 thing that makes the biggest difference in test scores. Okay? So, core classes, if you take a look, and we'll see a screen here, the graduation requirements on it. There's a lot of real nuts and bolts, math, science, obviously 4 years of English, and those sorts of things that are key to the graduation requirements. Colleges are going to be looking to see what those classes were. Now, we don't offer a wide variety, well, I think it's a fairly decent variety of science classes, math classes, that sort of thing, but we really stick to the things that are going to be most impressive or most significant to college admissions processes. So, yeah, we've got things like anatomy and physiology, because if you're going to be going to a school where you've got an interest in the medical field, that's going to look pretty significant. Okay? We don't have some other, you know, more extraneous, more exotic science classes. You kind of stick to the things that are core, that are solid, because we see our purpose as preparing a solid foundation. They'll get to the fancy stuff when they get off to college and decide they want to major in zoology. Okay, we'll let you take care of that when you get there. We're going to make sure you've got a great foundation in chemistry and biology and physics, because that's the nuts and bolts, that's the basic foundation. So we've got Chem 1, Chem 2, Bio 1, Bio 2, Physics 1, Physics 2. Okay, it doesn't sound super exciting, but it really gets the job done when we talk about preparing kids for college testing and for the college experience as well. Advanced placement classes and dual credit classes, just to explain real quickly the difference there. An advanced placement class is it's kind of almost no such thing as advanced placement class, to be honest. The only thing that matters is the advanced placement test. Okay? You can take all the classes, AP classes you want. It doesn't mean anything unless you took the AP test. And you only get college credit if you get a certain score on the AP test. One of the downsides of that is the fact that that only happens on a one-day in May kind of situation. You can be in that AP physics class all semester long, and if that one test on that one day doesn't go all that well, you're not going to get the college credit for it, even though you got an A in that physics class. Okay, so it's kind of a high-stakes testing, one-and-done sort of an experience. Okay, which is one of the reasons why we prefer the dual credit orientation, because a dual credit class is literally a college class. Okay, it has to be taught by a teacher with a master's degree and X number of hours in that field, and it's got to be taught using college-level curricula, textbook, testing, etc. So it really is a college-level class. And so you get whatever grade you get on that college-level class. Now, the other aspect of that I think is really cool is it's going to look like a college class. You're going to go in the first day of Mr. Freudenberg's Bio 2 class, and he's going to hand you a syllabus. And, you know, Mr. Vaughn in dual credit government is going to hand you a syllabus. And it's going to look like a college textbook, and it's going to look like college expectations, and that's what you're going to do. But the cool part about that is, then when you get to college, and you're sitting there as a freshman on your first day in your first class, and they hand you this thing, and it's a college syllabus, you look at that and say, oh yeah, I've done this before. You know, the kind of confidence that brings to a kid of knowing that, oh yeah, this looks familiar, I know what this is about, I've done this before, and it worked. Okay, I'm good. That's what we as a school really want to provide for kids as they prepare to move on. So that's why we prefer really the dual credit orientation as opposed to just AP. Yep.
Now for the GPA, I saw that there was one that was worth 5, for example. Is that honors, advanced, and dual worth 5, all of them?
Anything that's an honors class will get you 5 for an A, and all of our dual credit classes are considered honors classes. And as we get into to this document here a little bit later on tonight, we'll see the honors classes are all notated in there. Yeah, good question. Okay, there's more detail on the specifics of the graduation requirements. You'll see that listed out in a different fashion here at the bottom of this page as well. I don't know, any questions on that? Again, this starts from 9 through 12, so at this point, we're going to be talking about what can I do in terms of building the foundation so that when I get to those high school level math classes and science classes and English classes, that I'm ready to be successful at that, and I'm able to handle the expectations of those writing assignments and those testing expectations and so on. Okay? Questions on any of that? Again, it's in one of your handouts, and we can talk about it a little more later too. One of the things we've done recently is we've gone to what we call these flex classes. In the past, we required either 4 years of math or 4 years of science, and as we added things like engineering and so on, we wanted to provide a little more flexibility for kids to work something like that into their schedule. And so we encourage students to still do 4 years of math and 4 years of science if they're able to get that in. But we know that some kids that really want to do 3 years of engineering might not have room in their schedule for 4 years of math, 4 years of science, and 3 years of engineering. So that's why we came up with the flex category. So require a minimum of 3 math and 3 science, but we leave some other room there for some other things if you're interested in something like engineering, or some kids really want to get into fine arts and they're going to do, you know, 4 years of art or 4 years of band or orchestra or something like that. And so again, that affords some flexibility. Okay, what you do outside the classroom. Colleges are interested in that too. Okay, we've talked about that a little bit in terms of social responsibility and that sort of thing, but students realize that the role that you play in getting involved in sports or drama or music or other sorts of clubs, that sort of thing, is key. It will be detrimental to your college application if that question comes up, and it virtually always does, if you've got nothing to put down there. So it doesn't matter a whole lot what it is. It can be Key Club, because that's a service organization. That's a cool thing too. You know, it doesn't have to be just sports. I mean, it can be. We offer tons of sports, so there's lots of opportunity for that. But as students, you need to be thinking about what sort of thing am I going to be able to get connected with? What am I going to be successful at? And I particularly put this separate item on here for leadership because of the fact that that's of significance too. At some point, somewhere, you want to find a place where you can really connect with something and not only participate, but be one of the leaders, one of the facilitators of that. And maybe it's as a class officer. Maybe it's in being one of the officers of Key Club instead of just being in Key Club. Or maybe it's being in charge of the prom committee instead of just being on the prom committee. That sort of thing. Those leadership roles are important, and that's something the colleges really look for because it shows them that here's a student that's willing to stand up and take some responsibility and take ownership and take charge of something. And they want somebody that's got that sort of a get-go and go after kind of a perspective on some things, okay? So look for those opportunities for leadership in particular. And getting involved in things outside of school is great too. You know, 4-H has a lot of great experiences. You can be involved in Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, all that kind of thing. Those are all great as well. The idea is just be involved and do something. Now, you've got to be sometimes selective with that too. We had to tell our kids, okay, 2 sports a year is max. We're not doing 3 sports a year because we just can't keep up with all that, and they probably can't either. Now, that was our rule. What yours can, you know, obviously your situation is different. But think about setting those kinds of parameters, because at some point you just need to. Okay? Some kids they just love getting involved in so many things. Your biggest role as a parent is putting the brakes on, because you know they'll be in 2 sports and a play and extracurricular outside of school and this and that, and you know it just becomes too much. You know, spend some time really getting to know your student. And students, you know, look at these questions that are up here. Okay, some of those are probably things you haven't thought a whole lot before. And some of them are going to be things that are going to be helpful to you if you discuss them with somebody, like your parents. Okay? And parents realize that partly because of what we were just talking about developmentally, you're going to know this better than they do. You're going to recognize those sorts of things in them better than they do. It's interesting because a lot of times when students come in new, one of the things we'll talk about in my office, I'll just ask them, well, tell me about yourself. And 80% of the time, the first thing the kid does when I ask them that question is look to their parent. Particularly junior high kids. High school kids, not so much. I can do that with a freshman, and they'll just start talking. But a 6th grader will usually look to their parent because they don't know what to say about themselves. So there's a role that you have to play there in helping them understand themselves better. So, you know, take advantage of that opportunity. Because one of the things we're going to be talking about as we talk about course selection, not so much at junior high, but by the time we get into sophomore year of high school, we're going to be saying, well, what are you looking to do down the road? Because that's going to be what determines what extra science class you should take. What are you going to do down the road? Because that might determine what math class you should take. Or if you should take another fine art, or if you should do a foreign language instead. What are you thinking of doing down the road? Well, it's really hard to decide that when you're a sophomore in high school. I get that. And they're going to change their mind a bunch of times. But if they already know, after having talked with you and kind of begun to start thinking about themselves and so on, that math is just not their game, okay, that's going to be helpful to know. Or if they realize that, well, math is their game, they just don't like it that well, okay, that's important to know too. And some of that stuff they're just not going to figure out on their own. Okay, they're going to need us collectively to help them figure that kind of stuff out. So think about that. The reason I put this one down here at the bottom in bigger letters, that sort of thing, it's part of that idea of being deliberate. You know, take some time, sometime in the next couple of weeks, or maybe after we've talked about this and that sort of thing, to sit down and get specific about, you know, setting some goals for you as parents to say, this is how often we're going to take a night and just connect one-on-one with Sally or with Johnny or whatever. Okay? Or we're going to take this opportunity to read a book together and have some discussion about, you know, what's important and what the message of this book was and what that means in terms of our understanding of social responsibility. You know, whatever it is, just be deliberate. Set some goals. Be deliberate about what you want to do with some of those sorts of things in the future. Okay? One of the things I talk about kids in college is understanding culture. And each university has a very different culture. And high schools do too. Middle schools do too. And so as you're thinking about what a future college for your student might look like, think about what kind of culture it is they're going to connect with and be successful in. For some, it might be a larger versus a smaller. For some, there's some schools that are pretty good size, but are still very personable and personal. And there's some that are fairly small that are not so much. And there's a different school out there for every person. Your student understanding themselves and you helping them understand themselves is going to be a big part of what that college selection process is going to look like in the future. So the sooner you start working on that and thinking about that, the more helpful that'll be. There's some information on some of the handouts that are over there about college financing and college selection process and that sort of thing. If you take a look at our school website, I've got lots of links, lots of pages, a whole page just on scholarships and financial aid. There's lots of things in here, lots of things in there you can look at. There's whole pages on there in terms of figuring out what you want to major in and those sorts of things that are good to take a look at and consider. There's a lot of information on there about FAFSA and federal financial aid and loans and all those sorts of things. So that'll happen a little bit down the road. I threw this in here because in the past when we've done this program, people have said to me, you know what, we'd like to know a little bit about financial aid. Okay, I get that because that's one of the scariest parts of what you're looking forward to in the future. Okay? Now, if you want to talk to your sixth graders that I talked to today in class, I already told them about I told them today about what they ought to be doing if they're looking to make about $20,000 a year this year. Okay? So we talked about that and I have to explain to you what I said. Do you remember what I talked about? Okay, so there you go. All right, because I told them, we went through what college scholarships look like, and what I told them is the money's in the grades. Yeah, there's athletic scholarships out there, and there's nothing wrong with that, and we hear a lot about them, but there's 10 times more money in grades than there is in athletics. Now, if you're into athletics and you want to get that, go for it. That's totally fine. Your best bet is going to be to match the athletics and the academics, because colleges are not interested in athletes that they can't perform in the classroom. Okay? College and coaches are not going to spend their limited scholarship funds on a student that they're not sure is going to make it past freshman year. Okay? So, you know, that's part of it's an important thing to think about too. But the money's in the grades. There's also money in fine arts. So for kids that aren't in athletics, you know, I had kids that went through here and you know, they learned band and beginning band and went through junior high band and high school band and one of them got paid $5,000 a year to be in the band at Valparaiso University. I was good with that. I had the heart to tell him he would have been in band anyway because he loved band. But if they're willing to pay him $20,000 a year over 4 years to be in the band, that's all good with me. So, you know, that's absolutely doable. All right? But the money's in the grades. So that's the big thing to look at. And one of the things I'll mention to you right now too, don't automatically assume because, you know, we're spending all this tuition to go to a private high school, we're not going to be able to afford to go to a private university. There's some private universities out there, especially, and some really good ones, especially if you've got the right interest and it fits with the programs that they offer and that sort of thing. It can absolutely be cheaper for you to go there than it is for you to go to a state school, especially in Illinois. The state schools in Illinois are not very cheap. Okay? So there's a lot of great opportunity. I can tell you stories about people that are paying less for their kids to go to college than they paid for them to go to Rockford Lutheran. And that's because those kids, they were involved, so they've got extracurriculars, they've got merit aid, they've got academic aid, they've got everything going for them. And that's exactly what I was telling sixth graders today. If you want to be paying for your college education now, go home and do your homework. Go home and do your math. Go home and do your English, because that's going to pay off big time when we're talking college scholarships and you got good grades. Okay? As we get further down the road, we'll talk about FAFSA and federal aid and those sorts of things. We can talk more about that later if you'd like to. There's some information here, some sites you can go to that provide opportunity for you to have some tax incentives for saving for college and that sort of thing. So again, this will be posted. There's information on this on our school website. Lots of places you can find information on that. But there's a lot of good opportunities available. Lots of, again, websites that you can go to, and again, this will be posted so you don't have to write them down or anything like that. But a lot of resources out there to start looking at now. And that's what some of the handouts that you got were about tonight too. Obviously, colleges look at test scores. So this gives you an idea of you know, what our average test scores are like, what the national average test scores are like, those sorts of things. These numbers down here, this is the whole class. This is like the top half, the top 25%, top 10%, that sort of thing. One of the things that's a little bit of a problem for us is we compare ourselves to ACT average, and especially if you're looking at the state average of ACT in Illinois. Nowadays, only about 30% of the state of Illinois takes the ACT, whereas here, about 80% of our kids take the ACT. And, you know, schools will tell you, well, if you want your ACT scores to look good, encourage the right people to take it and discourage the right people to not take it, okay? Well, we don't play that game. If you want to take the ACT, go for it. And like I said, we usually have about 80% take ACT, and the others that don't take ACT are usually taking SAT. So that makes it an apples to oranges kind of comparison when we look at it, especially at the state of Illinois, but we just believe that that's what's right, so that's a good. But obviously our kids are doing well. And education here as it relates to future income and unemployment, that sort of thing is what we're here to look at and accomplish. And for you as students, you know, this is here for you to see when I'm talking about this is where your job is starting. This is how you're going to make $20,000 a year. This is what you need to be thinking about. Not only at some point are you going to be making a lot more money every week than somebody that doesn't have any kind of degree, but a lot better chance you'll have a job all the time as well. So, okay. These are just some statistics about our kids in the last 2 years. Again, sometimes people have asked that about these programs when we've offered it, so I just threw some of that kind of stuff on there for you to take a look at. And then we've got some of the colleges that people have attended in the past. They've asked questions about that too. There'll be, again, it's all posted there for you to look at if you like. I'd like to take some time looking at this form right here, because this has got some real important information for you as we take a look at what's happening right now with kids in terms of course selection. And that sheet that you picked up at the back table where it said, you know, pick up the one that's grade specific, that's the course recommendation sheet that your kids will be bringing home in the next week or two, where the teachers have gone through and recommended which math class should they be taking, which English class should they be taking, that sort of thing. So let's take a look at this and see how that fits into what their options are for next year, okay? So as you take a look at this form, you see the grade levels are across the top. Junior high is over here on this side, the high school on this side, and you see the subject areas are down the left-hand margin there, okay? So if you take a look at English, we look across the top of English, you've got regular and honors level all the way across. You'll notice that when you get over here to the senior honors English, that's notated as one of those dual credit classes. The DC is listed there, okay? This is one of the conversations that happened with 6th graders today. If you want to end up in that dual credit English class, you're going to graduate from high school with a college level composition class and a college level literature class already completed. That's going to mean you don't have to do 300 hours worth of college homework when you get there because you've already got your classes done. Okay, so that's what we're shooting for. Now, how do we get there? Basically, the way the system works is you really need to be an honors junior English, and it helps if you're an honors sophomore English, and you just kind of back that down. Now, the way this works is if you're in regular English this year and you're getting an A, then your teacher would recommend you for honors English next year. If you're in honors English this year and you're getting an A or a B, your teacher will recommend you for honors English next year. Okay, so it's A, B, will keep you in the same class. If you're in the regular and you want to move up to honors, you have to get an A. All right? So, one of the things I said to kids is, if English is kind of your thing, and okay, maybe I haven't been working on it quite as much as I should, you know, I could get an A in English if I wanted to. Well, do you want to get out of 300 hours of homework over here? Do you want to end up in this dual credit class over here? Do you want to save the $8,000 of tuition that represents? Not to mention the 300 hours of homework? Okay, well let's start earning that $8,000 now, and let's come back here and do the work that we need to do to get in honors English. So go to your teacher and ask them, what do I need to do to get recommended for honors English? Now, for some of us, honors English is not going to be our thing because English is not our thing. I totally get that. Everybody's different. That's okay. Then what is our thing? Because if you look down the list over here, you'll see we've got dual credit classes in science. We've got biology 2, chemistry 2. We've got dual credit classes in social studies. We've got economics and government and psychology. We've got AP classes in math. We've got dual credit classes in Spanish. Okay, so if English isn't your thing, okay, well then, what's your thing? Figure out what your thing is and work towards that. Now again, dual credit or AP is not the be-all and end-all, but my guess is most of us could handle that in one area or another. It's not, we've usually got over 65% of our seniors taking college classes before they graduate. Some of them only get 1 or 2. Some of them finish a whole semester. Some of them have finished a year before they graduate from high school. Okay? So, you know, there's a lot of variety there. There's some place that most people can plug in and get some of that accomplished. But we need to start working on it now. Okay? And this shows up particularly in the world of math. All right? So if you take a look at math over here from the left-hand side, you see we started with 6th and 8th grade math. Okay? And then you go into 7th grade math, where you got 7th math, 8th math, and honors pre-algebra. And here's where it gets really important. In 8th grade, you got 8th math, pre-algebra, and honors algebra 1. Okay. Honors algebra 1 in 8th grade is huge. If you've got any chance of getting to that, that's a huge deal breaker for you, because that means you go into geometry as a freshman, algebra 2 as a sophomore, pre-calc as a junior, and you get all the way to calc as a senior. Okay? You follow that across there? Now, that's huge enough in itself, because if you are interested in some kind of field of math, you're making it all the way to college calc by the time you're done with high school. That's significant, okay? And that's going to look really good on the transcript. And getting that much math on your belt, especially by the time you're done with your junior year, is going to be huge when it comes to taking the SAT or the ACT, because there's a big chunk of that test that's math. And if you've got all the pre-calc done on top of algebra 2, you're going to get a pretty good score on ECT and math. Okay? So that's huge in itself. Here's the other thing that's significant though. If you're in Algebra 1 as an 8th grader, that's a high school level math class, you can also be in physical science as an 8th grader, which is a high school science class. The reason for that is our physics class is an algebra-based physics class, which is what most colleges want, is what you really need if you're going to go into something relative to math as a career in engineering and that sort of thing. But that means you have to have Algebra 2 done before you can take honors physics. In order for that sequence to work, you've got to do Algebra 1 and physical science at the same time. Then, as a freshman, now you're going to be in biology and geometry. Then as a sophomore, you'll be in chemistry and Algebra 2. Then as a junior, you can be in physics and pre-calc. Now, as a senior, you can do the calc if you want. You've got bio, chem, and physics under your belt, and you've got time to do bio 2, chem 2, anatomy phys. Okay? So getting that algebra in 8th grade is huge because it opens up a ton of opportunity in math and a ton of opportunity in science. So we really try to create a program that enables as many kids to get to that Algebra 1 in 8th grade as possible. So as you take a look at this, that means you really need to be in that honors pre-algebra in 7th grade. Now, if you're in 8th math as a 6th grader, that's the normal progression. You're going to get set for the honors pre-algebra in 7th grade. What if you're on the 7th grade math as a 6th grader? Okay? We have a program over the summer, and this is part of what I want to make sure we talk about tonight so you have an idea what sort of opportunities open to you. It's called the EDGE program. And the purpose of the EDGE program is to provide an opportunity over the summer for your kid to basically skip your math. Okay? Now, you're not really skipping it because you're going to spend a significant amount of time in that summer going over it. But here's the deal. If you went into 7th grade math as a 6th grader, you're pretty good at math. You're a little bit leery of doing the 8th grade math, but man, that just sounds tough. Okay? I think I'm going to be more comfortable with the 7th grade math as a 6th grader, and I'm going to want to ease in and take it a little bit easy and sort of thing. But then when you got into 7th grade math, yeah, I am pretty good at math, and the 7th grade math's pretty easy, and I'm kind of crunching through it, and it's full on sailing, and then I'm getting an A in it. Okay. Well, then let's just do 8th grade math over the summer, and jump right in to honors pre-algebra in 7th grade. And that'll get you to that algebra in 8th grade, and so on. Or say maybe we didn't do honors pre-algebra in 7th grade, but that 8th grade math was a piece of cake, and we really crunched our way through that. Okay, well, then let's do the summer program and get ourselves into Algebra 1 in 8th grade. Okay, so that's the idea is the EDGE program is there to help you make that jump in math if you're ready for it, and not everybody is, but to get you that algebra in 8th grade because that's going to open up so many opportunities.
So put this even as option 4 on the internet? you know, it was kind of like for the 8th graders, but then that would go into Algebra 1 as a 7th grader instead of pre-algebra. That was-
I'm not sure what you're referring to by option 4 on the internet.
I'll show you later.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. So when you get your rec sheets home, and that rec sheet looks like the ones that you picked up here tonight, okay? So if you have questions about it, that's why I wanted to provide you kind of a blank copy, so if you want to ask questions about it, you can do that. When you get that home, the teacher recommendations will be on there. And in some of them, they would have said, you know what, if you do the EDGE program over the summer, I can see your kid bumping up a grade. So that's why I wanted to talk with you about this tonight, so you know what that's about. Because absolutely it's a great thing to do. Now, one other thing that we offer in the summer is called the Boost program. Because some of us are struggling to get through Math 6, or 7th graders are struggling to get through Math 7. And we know the math's going to be important, we have more of it to take. The Boost program is there both for math and for language arts to provide some extra support for kids that are just struggling with that kind of stuff. So if at the other end of the spectrum, you know, they're just barely making it through the writing assignments and that kind of thing, they really need some more help working on it over the summer, that's what the Boost program is there for, okay? And I've got information sheets on either one of these programs, okay? Here's the one on the Boost program, if that's something that you need. Here's the one on the EDGE program, if that's something that you need. It talks about how it works and when it is and all those sorts of things here. So I'm going to leave that over here on this table so it's there for you when you walk out. If you want to go ahead and sign up for something, you can do that on this white sheet here or drop it off. We'll follow up with you. You don't have to have a check tonight or anything like that. But I'll put it over here so that you can take a look at it, grab it, and think about it, because it's going to be something that I think really could be helpful to some of your kids. So please feel free to take a look at that here before you take off tonight. Okay? Other questions on that? On the math and science stuff? Okay, so you understand how the English works and how the math and the science work going across and dual credit and all that sort of thing. Okay, the other decisions that you have to make, typically you have to do with fine arts, electives, those sorts of things. I think that's pretty familiar to you and so on. Again, the graduation requirements are here in the lower portion, so you have an idea about what the expectations are going to be when you get to the high school level. And you know, this is there for you to kind of plot out what the next 4, 5, 6 years, etc., might look like. Okay. Questions about anything, Sandra?
So if you do a lot of the math in junior high, so you still have to have a year of math, like 4 credits, in high school, like in the 4 years, or does the previous ones count?
The way our program is set up, we don't count the Algebra 1 that you take in 8th grade as a high school math. Because our philosophy is we're not doing that so that you take less math in high school.
Yeah.
We're doing it so that you get farther in math in
But
high
if you
school.
do more engineering,
Yeah. But that does mean I can get the pre-calc as a junior, and now I'm done with math. I did some pretty high level math, so I'm going to do okay on the ACT and SAT. But I've got time to do something else now my senior year, and I really want to do Chem 2. Okay, it's not unusual. We'll have kids that take Bio 2 and Chem 2, sometimes at the same time. Okay, and you know, more power to them, but they're able to do that because they've done some other things earlier like that. Good question. Other questions on this or anything else tonight?
do the dual credits cost more then?
The dual credit